Think about the last time you didn't do something because you lacked confidence. Maybe it was speaking up in a meeting. You had a great idea. You knew it could help, but you stayed silent, telling yourself, someone else will say it. I don't want to sound stupid. I'm not confident enough. Maybe it was applying for a job. You saw the posting. You met most of the qualifications, but you didn't apply, telling yourself, I'm not ready. I need more experience. I'm not confident enough. Maybe it was asking for a raise. You deserved it. You'd worked hard, but you didn't ask, telling yourself, they'll say no. I'm not worth it. I'm not confident enough. Maybe it was starting a business. You had the idea. You had the skills, but you didn't start, telling yourself, I need more planning. I need more savings. I'm not confident enough. Maybe it was approaching someone you were interested in. Maybe it was sharing your art. Maybe it was setting a boundary with a difficult person. Maybe it was saying no to something that was draining you. Whatever it was, the pattern is the same. You waited. You told yourself you needed more confidence first. And while you waited, the opportunity passed. The moment passed. The version of you that could have acted stayed a fantasy. You've been told your entire life that confidence comes first, that you need to feel confident before you can act confident, that you need to believe in yourself before you can achieve anything meaningful. This message comes from everywhere. Self-help books promise to build your confidence before you take action. Motivational speakers tell you to believe in yourself first. Well-meaning friends say, you'll do it when you're ready. Here's the truth that will save you years of waiting. That's completely backwards. You don't need confidence to act. You need to act to build confidence. Confidence is not a prerequisite for action. It's a consequence of action. This is the single most important piece of advice about confidence that no one taught you. And if you understand it, truly understand it, internalize it, live by it, it will save you years of waiting, years of overthinking, years of feeling not ready, years of watching opportunities pass you by. Today, we're going to deconstruct everything you thought you knew about confidence. We'll look at the research on how confidence actually works, the psychology, the neuroscience, the real-world evidence. We'll explore the difference between confidence and competence, and why confusing them keeps you stuck. We'll identify the patterns that keep people trapped in the waiting cycle for years, even decades. We'll examine why fake it till you make it works for some people, but backfires for others. And most importantly, we'll build a practical framework for developing real, unshakable confidence, not by waiting, not by wishing, not by repeating hollow affirmations, but by doing. Because here's what I want you to understand. The people you admire, the ones who seem so confident, so self-assured, so unshakable, weren't born that way. They started before they were ready. They acted before they felt prepared. They took the first step while still terrified, and the confidence followed. They didn't wait for the fear to disappear. They acted anyway. And that's the only difference between them and you. Let's begin. Part 1. The confidence paradox. Let's start with the paradox that keeps most people stuck for years, decades, sometimes their entire lives. The common belief: confidence comes first, then action. The reality: action comes first, then confidence. This is not just motivational talk. It's not a nice idea to make you feel better. It's backed by decades of psychological research. Psychologists have studied what they call behavioral activation. The principle is simple and powerful. Changing your behavior changes your emotions, not the other way around. You think, I need to feel motivated before I act. Research shows action creates motivation. You think, I need to feel happy before I smile. Research shows smiling can make you feel happier. You think, I need to feel confident before I do the thing. Research shows doing the thing builds confidence. The reason this works is because of something called self-perception theory, developed by psychologist Darrell B. Yam in the 1970s. Self-perception theory says that we infer our own internal states, our emotions, our beliefs, our attitudes by observing our own behavior. Think about that. You don't have direct access to your own confidence level. There's no meter inside you that reads 80 confident. Instead, your brain looks at what you do and makes a guess. I did that. That was hard. So I must be the kind of person who can do hard things. When you act as if you're confident, even when you don't feel it, your brain notices. It takes the action as evidence. I must be confident, your brain concludes, because I just did something that required confidence. The action creates the identity. The identity doesn't create the action. Examples from research. You think you need to feel confident to speak in public, but the research shows that people who force themselves to speak in public even when they're terrified, even when their hands shake, even when their voice trembles report significantly lower anxiety afterward. A study published in the Journal of Anxiety Disorders found that exposure therapy gradually facing feared situations was more effective at reducing public speaking anxiety than any cognitive intervention. Why? Because the action changed the feeling, not the other way around. You think you need to feel confident to ask for a raise, but the research on workplace assertiveness shows that people who ask for raises despite their fear not only often get them, but also report feeling more capable, more respected, and more confident afterward, regardless of the outcome. You think you need to feel confident to start a business, but most successful entrepreneurs will tell you the same thing. They started terrified. They had no idea what they were doing. They were imposters with no confidence, but they took the first step anyway, and with each small action, their confidence grew. The writer and entrepreneur Tim Ferriss, who has interviewed hundreds of successful people, says, "The magic you're looking for is in the work you're avoiding. The confidence you're looking for is in the action you're avoiding. The action first principle. Let me lay it out clearly. Here's how confidence actually works. Step 1, you decide to act even though you're scared, even though you're unsure, even though every voice in your head is screaming that you're not ready. Step 2, you take the action. It might be messy. It might not go perfectly. You might stumble. You might make mistakes, but you do it. Step 3, you observe your own action. Your brain notices, I did that. That was hard. I didn't die. I survived. Step 4, your confidence increases not because you felt ready, not because you were prepared, but because you proved to yourself that you could do it anyway. Confidence is not a feeling that arrives before action. It's a memory that accumulates after action. Every time you act despite fear, you deposit evidence into your confidence bank account. You create a memory. Remember that time you spoke up in the meeting and it was fine? Remember that time you asked for the raise and they said yes? Remember that time you failed and you were okay? These memories are the real source of confidence, not affirmations, not visualization, not positive thinking, evidence. Part 2, the difference between confidence and competence. To understand confidence fully and to understand why waiting for it is such a trap, we need to distinguish it from something closely related but fundamentally different, competence. Competence is your actual ability to do something. It's the skill, the knowledge, the experience, the expertise you've developed over time. Confidence is your belief in your ability to do something. It's the feeling, the self-assurance, the internal conviction. Here's the critical insight: competence and confidence are not the same, and they don't always align. Some people are highly competent but lack confidence. They have the skills, the knowledge, the experience, but they don't believe they do. They underestimate themselves. They feel like frauds. They have imposter syndrome. Other people are overconfident but lack competence. They believe they're capable but they're not. They overestimate themselves. They don't know what they don't know. They're the ones who cause disasters. The confidence-competence matrix. Let me give you a framework. Imagine a 2x2 grid. Quadrant 1, low competence, low confidence. This is the beginner. You don't know what you're doing, and you know you don't know. This is actually a healthy place to start because at least you're aware of your limitations. Quadrant 2, low competence, high confidence. This is the dangerous zone. You don't know what you're doing, but you think you do. This is the Dunning-Kruger effect, the tendency for unskilled people to overestimate their ability. Quadrant 3, high competence, low confidence. This is imposter syndrome territory. You have the skills, the experience, the track record, but you don't believe it. You think you've been lucky. You think you'll be found out. This is where many high achievers live. Quadrant 4, high competence, high confidence. This is the sweet spot. You have the skills and you believe in them. This is earned confidence, confidence built on evidence. How to move through the quadrants. You start in quadrant 1, you don't know what you're doing. And you know you don't know. This feels uncomfortable. Most people stay here because they're afraid of looking foolish. The only way to move is to act. You take action despite your low confidence. You gain experience. You make mistakes. You learn. Your competence grows. If you're paying attention, your confidence will grow too, but it often lags behind. You may find yourself in quadrant 3, highly competent, but still lacking confidence. This is where the work of internalizing your competence becomes important. The imposter syndrome connection. If you've ever felt like a fraud, like you're going to be found out at any moment you've experienced imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is the gap between your actual competence and your perceived confidence. You are capable. You have the skills. You have the track record, but you don't believe it. Here's what most people get wrong about imposter syndrome. They think the solution is to feel more confident. They try affirmations, visualization, positive thinking. But the cure for imposter syndrome is not more affirmations. It's more evidence. Every time you act, you generate evidence. Evidence that you can do the thing. Evidence that you've done it before. Evidence that you survived. Over time, the evidence accumulates. The gap between your competence and your confidence narrows. And eventually, you move into quadrant 4, where your confidence finally catches up to your competence. But notice, you can't skip the action. You can't go from quadrant 1 to quadrant 4 by waiting. You have to move through the messy middle. Part 3, why waiting for confidence is a trap. Now let's examine why the wait until I'm confident approach is so dangerous. This is not just inefficient, it's actively harmful. Trap number 1, confidence never arrives. You're waiting for a feeling that won't come until you act. Fear doesn't disappear before action. It disappears during action or after action. Sometimes it doesn't disappear at all, you just learn to act despite it. You will never feel completely ready. The ready feeling is a myth, a fantasy, a story you tell yourself to avoid the discomfort of starting. The writer and poet William Stafford said, "The lowest trick of the devil is to make you believe that you're not ready." Trap number 2, the goalposts keep moving. Let's say you do. Wait, you decide you need to feel more confident before you act. You take a course. You read a book. You do some affirmations. You feel a little better. Then you look at the thing you're afraid of, and suddenly you don't feel confident again. So you need to do more work. Read another book. Take another course. Do more affirmations. The goalposts keep moving. Your confidence threshold keeps rising. You never feel enough. This is because confidence is not a destination. It's not a level you reach and then stay at forever. It fluctuates. It depends on context. You can be confident about some things and not others. You can be confident today and less confident tomorrow. Waiting for a stable, permanent feeling of confidence is like waiting for the ocean to stop having waves. It's never going to happen. Trap number 3, you miss opportunities. While you're waiting to feel confident, the world keeps moving. The job gets filled. The person moves on. The market shifts. The moment passes. And you're left with something far more painful than the fear you were avoiding. Regret. Research on the psychology of regret shows that people regret the things they didn't do far more than the things they did and failed at. The writer and poet John Green said, "The most painful moments in my life are not the moments I failed. They are the moments I was too afraid to try." Trap number 4, confidence atrophies. Confidence is like a muscle. If you don't use it, you lose it. The more you avoid difficult things, the more difficult they seem. Your world shrinks. Your comfort zone contracts. The gap between where you are and where you want to be grows wider. Psychologists call this avoidance conditioning. Every time you avoid something because you're afraid, your brain learns that avoidance works. It reinforces the fear. And the next time you face the same situation, the fear is even stronger. Waiting for confidence actually makes you less confident. Trap number 5, the self-fulfilling prophecy. When you tell yourself, "I need more confidence before I act," you're also telling yourself, "I don't have enough confidence now." And that belief that you lack confidence becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You don't act because you believe you can't, and because you don't act, you never get the evidence that you can. You stay stuck in a loop of your own making. The writer and philosopher Søren Kierkegaard said, "Anxiety is the dizziness of freedom." Waiting for confidence is a way of avoiding that dizziness. It's a way of staying in the cage because at least the cage is familiar, but it's also a way of avoiding your freedom. Part 4, how to build confidence, the practical framework. Now let's get practical. Here's how to build real, lasting confidence, not by waiting, not by wishing, but by doing. Step 1. Start smaller than you think. You don't need to give a TED Talk to build public speaking confidence. You don't need to run a marathon to build running confidence. You don't need to start a Fortune 500 company to build entrepreneurial confidence. Start with something so small that it's almost embarrassing. Want to speak up in meetings? Start by speaking up once, just once. Even if it's just agreeing with someone. Want to ask for a raise? Start by asking for feedback on your performance. Want to start a business? Start by offering your service to one person for free. Want to approach someone you're interested in? Start by making eye contact and smiling. Small wins compound. Each small act of courage deposits evidence into your confidence bank account. Over time, you've built a mountain of evidence and with it, real confidence. Step 2. Separate action from outcome. Most people don't act because they're afraid of failure. They think, what if I try and fail? That will destroy my confidence. This is completely backwards. Let me say it clearly. Trying and failing doesn't destroy confidence. Not trying destroys confidence. When you try and fail, you learn. You get data. You find out what doesn't work. You build resilience. And most importantly, you prove to yourself that failure is survivable. When you don't try, you learn nothing. You stay stuck. You never find out what could have happened. And you reinforce the belief that you can't do it. The most confident people are not the ones who've never failed. They're the ones who've failed the most and learned that failure is not fatal. Step 3. Use the 5-second rule. This is from Mel Robbins and it's perfect for confidence building. When you feel the urge to act or when you notice yourself hesitating, count backwards from 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go. Don't give your brain time to talk you out of it. Don't let the excuses form. Don't let the fear fully develop. Act before the resistance solidifies. The counting backwards interrupts your brain's default patterns. It shifts you from thinking to doing, and action is the only thing that builds confidence. Step 4. Keep a confidence resume. This is a simple but powerful tool. Write down every time you acted despite fear, every small win, every risk you took, every time you did something that scared you even if it didn't go perfectly. Call it your I did it anyway list. When doubt creeps in and it will read your confidence resume, the evidence is there. You've done hard things before. You've survived. You've grown. You can do it again. Step 5. Reframe fear as excitement. Here's a trick from the research. Physiologically, fear and excitement are almost identical. Both involve increased heart rate, rapid breathing, and heightened alertness. The difference is interpretation. Instead of telling yourself, I'm scared, try, I'm excited. My body is preparing to perform. This is energy I can use. Research by Alison Wood Brooks at Harvard Business School found that people who reframe anxiety as excitement perform better in stressful situations, public speaking, singing in front of strangers, even math tests. Your body doesn't care what you call it, but your mind does. Step 6. Find a model. Find someone who does what you're afraid of doing. Watch them, study them, learn from them. Ask yourself, if they can do it, why can't I? But remember, they weren't born confident either. They started somewhere. They were scared too. The difference is they acted anyway. Step 7. Act as if. This is classic advice for a reason. Act as if you're already confident, not arrogantly, not like you're better than others, but as if you believe in yourself. Stand up straight, make eye contact, speak clearly, slow down. Your body influences your mind. When you act confident, you start to feel confident. The posture creates the feeling. The behavior creates the belief. Step 8. Use implementation intentions. Research by psychologist Peter Gollwitzer shows that forming an implementation intention dramatically increases the likelihood of following through. The formula, when situation, I will behavior. When I feel myself hesitating to speak in the meeting, I will take a breath and say my idea anyway. When I see an opportunity to ask for feedback, I will ask. When I start to make an excuse, I will act within 5 seconds. Implementation intentions work because they offload the decision. You don't have to decide in the moment, you've already decided. The behavior becomes automatic. Step 9. Celebrate every win. Don't wait for the big win to celebrate. Celebrate the small wins. You spoke up in the meeting? Celebrate. You asked for feedback? Celebrate. You made eye contact? Celebrate. Research by Dr. B.J. Fogg, author of Tiny Habits, shows that emotion creates habits. When you feel good after doing a behavior, Your brain encodes that behavior is worth repeating. So celebrate, say out loud, "Good job," pump your fist, smile. The celebration releases dopamine, which reinforces the action. Part 5, Why Fake It Till You Make It works and when it backfires. You've probably heard the phrase fake it till you make it, and you might have tried it. Maybe it worked, maybe it didn't. Let's break down why. The power of behavioral activation. Acting as if works because of the mechanism we've been discussing. Your brain observes your behavior and infers your internal state. When you act confident, your brain concludes that you are confident. The behavior creates the belief. This is supported by research. Studies have found that people who are instructed to smile, even when they don't feel like it, report better moods. People who stand in power poses report feeling more powerful when faking it backfires. But faking it till you make it can backfire in two situations. First, when the gap between your behavior and your internal state is too large. If you're terrified and you try to act like a supremely confident person, your brain detects the inconsistency. It feels fake. And instead of building confidence, it creates anxiety. The solution? Don't fake being a 10 when you're a 3. Fake being a 4. Take a smaller step. Act slightly more confident than you feel, not a completely different person. Second, when you're faking it for others, not for yourself. If you're trying to impress people, to manipulate them, to get something from them, the act feels hollow, and others can sense it. The solution? Act as if for yourself, to build your own evidence, to prove to yourself that you can. The internal shift is what matters. The middle way. The most effective approach is not to fake it, it's to practice it. Confidence is a skill. It can be practiced. You start where you are not where you wish you were, and you take small, deliberate steps. Each step builds evidence. Each piece of evidence builds confidence. And over time, the confidence becomes real, not faked, but earned. Part 6. The thing no one tells you about confidence. Here's the most important thing about confidence, and it's something almost no one talks about. Real confidence is not the absence of fear. The most confident people in the world still feel fear. They still doubt themselves. They still have moments of insecurity, imposter syndrome. And what if I'm not good enough? The difference is not that they're fearless. The difference is that they act despite the fear. What confidence actually is? Confidence is not the belief that you won't fail. It's the belief that you'll be okay even if you do. Confidence is not the absence of anxiety. It's the ability to feel anxious and choose to act anyway. Confidence is not being sure of the outcome. It's being sure that you can handle whatever outcome comes. The courage definition. The word courage comes from the French cœur, meaning heart. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's feeling the fear and choosing to act anyway. It's putting your heart on the line even when your head is telling you to run. Every time you act despite fear, you're not just building confidence. You're building courage. And courage is more valuable than confidence, because courage gets you through the moments when confidence fails. The quiet confidence. There's a kind of confidence that doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't need to impress. It doesn't need to prove anything. This is quiet confidence. It's not loud. It's not boastful. It's not performative. It's just settled, peaceful, unshakeable. This confidence doesn't come from never failing. It comes from failing and surviving, from being rejected and being okay, from falling and getting back up. This confidence comes from experience, from evidence, from the lived knowledge that you can handle whatever comes. You don't get this confidence by waiting. You don't get it by reading books. You don't get it by repeating affirmations. You get it by doing, by acting, by stepping into the arena even when you're scared. Conclusion, your first step. Let's come back to where we started. You've been waiting for confidence, waiting to feel ready, waiting for the fear to disappear, waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect version of yourself that doesn't exist. And while you wait, years pass, opportunities pass. The person you want to become stays just out of reach of fantasy, a dream, a someday that never comes. Here's the advice that will save you years. Stop waiting. Start acting. Confidence is not the door you walk through, it's the path you build by walking. You don't need to feel confident to speak up. Speak up and the confidence will follow. You don't need to feel confident to apply for the job. Apply and the confidence will follow. You don't need to feel confident to start the business. Start and the confidence will follow. You don't need to feel confident to ask for the raise. Ask and the confidence will follow. You don't need to feel confident to set the boundary. Set it and the confidence will follow. You don't need to feel confident to share your art. Share it and the confidence will follow. The first step is always the hardest. It always feels awkward. You will always have doubts. You will always have fear. Take it anyway. Not because you're confident, because you're ready to become confident, because you're tired of waiting, because you've already wasted too many years. The poet and philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote, "Do the thing you fear, and the death of fear is certain." He didn't say, wait until you're not afraid. He didn't say, read another book about fear. He didn't say, understand your fear intellectually. He said, do the thing. The death of fear is not in the waiting. It's not in the preparation. It's not in the planning. It's not in the thinking. The death of fear is in the doing. So here's my challenge to you today. What's one thing you've been waiting to do? One thing you've been putting off because you're not confident enough. Write it down right now. Then take the smallest possible step toward it. Not the whole thing, just one small step, and then another, and another. Because confidence is not a destination you arrive at. It's a practice you engage in every day. Every small act of courage. Every time you choose action over waiting. You don't need to be confident to start. You just need to start, and the confidence will follow. Confidence is not waiting for the fear to disappear. It's acting anyway and discovering that you're stronger than you knew. If this advice resonated with you, share it with someone who's been waiting too long for confidence to arrive. Subscribe for more deep dives into psychology, growth, and the art of becoming. I'll see you in the next one. And remember, your first step starts now.